Hi, again, my name is Leslie Williams. I want to make another statement here. Today's date is December 15th, 2011. When I left Dearborn, Michigan, as a result of extreme criminality that was going on towards me over at the University of Michigan, being gang-stalked openly, even by literally campus safety police, circulation staff, reference staff, and students, it finally blew up into a big scene because they seen I was videotaping the harassment, okay? And they knew they couldn't control that. So they literally developed a scheme to ban me by saying that I was taking videos of people when I shouldn't have been. And when campus safety came to evict me from campus, from the library, they got so frustrated over the situation because they could not contain and prevent me from catching them and blogging about what was going on, that when they came in to evict me, they were so physically threatening that I had to call the police on them. And within 36 hours, the police came and evicted me from where I was staying at as a direct result of being a target of the same criminals that were connected to them. Okay? So I went to Connecticut. And the very second I got off that bus in Connecticut, I was literally even gang-stalked by a bus driver. Literally. And I haven't made a lot of YouTube. In fact, I haven't made any YouTube videos yet in reference to what happened in Connecticut. But I want to help you understand something. It was either October 25th or 26th, on the front cover of USA Today, there was a big article in there. It was about pill mills, I think that's what it was called. The Stamford police were caught in dealing drugs. Now, I was gang-stalked from the first second that I went to Connecticut. The very first second. Including by harassment by the Stamford police, the Stamford fire department, people at the library in Stamford, Connecticut, and then they sabotaged where I was camping out at. They literally sabotaged my tent because I had put it in. I was staying in a place where there was a watershed, and I didn't know what a watershed was because I never had no need to figure it out because I just didn't know what it was. Okay, who knows what a watershed is if you don't like I just didn't know what it was. Okay, so anyways, they knew I was staying in a watershed because I was a half a block away from a fire department. So, and I was staying behind a creek that was actually attached to a river, and they knew it. I didn't know it. So what they did was they literally sabotaged my tent. They cut it all up with knives, the top, the sides, the back, and the bottom. Well, I came home one day after it rained all day, and discovered that they had sabotaged it. The whole entire tent inside was flooded and everything. So I had to spend an hour and a half in the rain cleaning that out just to get inside of it, and then I had to spend another 2 hours using bread ties to close up the areas that they cut it. Okay, and then so the next day I went and I bought another tent and I hid it and used that as a backup. I thought, well, I'll just keep the tarps on it, and if they want to sabotage it, let us say sabotage it again, because I figured they'd just keep doing it to new ones. Well, listen to this. As a result of them cutting it at the bottom, which they did intentionally because they knew that as soon as it rained hard enough that river would swell and I would get caught in a water flood, and that's exactly what happened to me. About a week later, it rained so hard that the river swelled up, and I was in the tent before it did. So by the time it got done raining, the river swelled up, and I was literally, my tent was it was a little floating waterbed. So I had to call the fire department just to get me out of there. And they ended up taking me to a hospital, and then when I left the hospital, they developed what's known as an artificial headache. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, they got the technology that can literally bring on headaches. If you don't believe what I'm saying, listen to the Elizabeth Adams. Go to Google and type in Elizabeth Adams and gang stalking, and she's got a video on there, wide-eyed cinema video, and she's talking to a guy by the name of Mr. Marciani, and he talks about the artificial headaches that they can create. Well, when I was at that hospital, they brought one about, an artificial headache. It blew up into a migraine. And so when I left there, they had individuals on the bus trying to tell me that, well, yeah, you know, it rained, and they were gang stalkers. They were engaged in a direct conversation tactic. So to make a long story short, they were trying to let me know that I was not going to be able to go back to my campsite and camp because the flood hadn't receded yet. So through the tactics of remote neural monitoring, this is the truth. The only thing I can do is just express what they did. They literally, because an individual was on the phone, had a phone in his hand, and it's all over the internet that they have scaled this stuff down to where they got the neurological the neural circuits that are evoked that they piggyback on. Okay, they transmit ideas in a person's head through their remote neural monitoring capabilities by using these scaled down electronic devices that have the technology and your and the resonance frequency of a specific neural network in your head. And they literally put the idea in my head that I could go to this church that was en route on the bus that I was on. So I pressed the button and I went to this church, and they ended up putting me in a homeless shelter where I was gang-stalked at from the very second I got there. So I filled out 3 online complaints to the ACLU and told them about what's happening. And the only ACLU office that offered services for Stamford, Connecticut was in Hartford, Connecticut. So I went there to follow up on them. I left the homeless shelter and went to New Hartford, Connecticut. Totally away from Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford, Connecticut is a cesspool. So the point I'm trying to make is this here. In order for me to survive and stay away out of the hands of little human traffickers, I had to camp out in the Nepog forest because I had to figure out how to get from New Hartford to Hartford. So the first goal for me to get, because when I got out to New Hartford, I didn't know anything about the city, so I didn't know how long it would take me to learn the bus system, and I knew I had to leave Stamford, so I had to find another camping place and then go from there to New Hartford, to go to the ACLU. So I went to New Hartford and figured out their bus system, and then tried to figure out how I could get from New Hartford to go to Hartford to follow up on the 3 online complaints. So I had to have a place to stay. I had to get out of Stamford. They were literally trying to set me up into apartments in extremely felonious, criminally activity-infested neighborhoods. That was their whole goal, because they try to situate women into areas where they can get them addicted to drugs and turn them into prostitution. Brain entrainment for prostitution. That's what this is all about, literally. Literally. They try to do the same thing in Michigan. Literally. So I had to literally sleep in the Nepog forest with bears. I'm talking about 600-pound bears just to stay out of the hands of human traffickers, literally. When you're in a forest and you're sleeping in a tent, you have no street lights. You have no street lights at all. You don't even have interstate lights that might be on like main highways. You have nothing. I'm talking about complete black. Like, see this phone here? It's completely black. Well, when it gets dark in the Nepog forest, you can't even see your hand in front of your face if it's this close or that close or that close. You literally cannot see at all. Literally. So I'm in a tent in the Nepog forest in the middle of the night, and I got 400 to 500 to 600-pound bears literally running up towards my tent in the middle of the night. One came so close, it literally came this close to the side of a tent. And you know how thick the skin of a tent is? It's not even a millimeter thick. In the night where I can't even see my hands in front of my face, but they knew I was there because they smelled me. And they seen one ran across my tent, and I had to move the location. I think it was the same bear. So the point I'm trying to make here is to fellow citizens is this. And then when I went out to Hartford, Connecticut to follow up on those 3 line complaints, I got arrested for asking to use the bathroom at Traveler's Insurance, and I was steered to go in there by somebody that came out. And it's all over the internet that gang stalkers will approach a target either at the entrance or exit of a place that they're thinking about going in. And I stood in front of the Traveler's Insurance because I had to go to the bathroom, and I was thinking about where am I going to go, so I was asking people that were standing there waiting for the bus. I didn't know they were waiting for the bus at that time. I asked them what this was, and a couple of them said, I don't know what it is. And so then I think what they did is a result of them seeing me asking, because they have gang stalkers around you that will observe what you're doing, and then they communicate on their cell phones. So they had an individual come out and tell me that it was a mall. Alright, so it's a mall. Malls got bathrooms. So I went in and found out that it wasn't a mall, that it was actually Traveler's Insurance. And I ended up getting arrested 2 hours later for asking to use the bathroom at Traveler's Insurance. Literally. And they changed the reason why they arrested me 5 times. And when they arrested me, they took my maze and they took my pocket knives. And they knew that they knew that by the time they were going to let me go from jail, that I would not have been able to physically get to a location to buy another knife or a maze. And the only way that I would have been able to even have enough time to get home as a result of when they released me and when I was able to get, finally get loose from their control, I would have literally had to have went back to the knee pod pores, even without a pocket knife or maze. Now, it's all over the internet that you can possibly fight off a bear with maze. But this is the little audacity of Hartford police. They literally even took my protection from me. They knew I was sleeping in a forest. They knew it. Because they share information concerning the target. Why do you think I was arrested? This is the little criminality of this gang-stalking expedition. They don't care if a learning disabled woman gets eaten by a bear, or killed by one, or mauled by one. A bear can take off your head. Can take off your head with one swoop. It can literally take your leg from your body with one yank. I had to sleep in the woods with 500-600-pound bears that were literally charging towards my tent in the pitch black just to try and stay safe from human traffickers. So when the bears started doing this stuff, I went to a different location that was closer to the